So how do you stay focused when working on your own personal projects? Hi, my name is Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 25 years now, and I'm here to empower you. So this question was asked to me by one of my patrons. So I've asked my patrons over on Patreon if they had any questions for me, mostly because I've kind of run out of videos and video ideas, and I just needed a little bit of a push, a little bit of inspiration. And oftentimes when somebody asks me a question, it leads me to thinking, and maybe it snowballs into other things. And actually, I've been asked some really good questions. This is one of the ones that is the simplest ones for me to address. So I thought I'd tackle it first. And there won't be any drawing in this video. I'm just going to be talking about this thing about focus. So drawing, when you're drawing, part of the thing that keeps you drawing, and one of the things that keeps your butt on the table, is hitting flow state, which is the point in an activity where your focus is such that time kind of passes by really, really fast, because whatever challenge you're working on, it consumes you. Now the problem is that this doesn't happen all the time, and oftentimes it tends to happen at the beginning of a project, and then you get petered out. And so the direct question that was asked to me was, how do you stay focused when you start working on a project? I find that I could only really work for about 20 to 40 minutes before I lose focus. Any tips to stay on the ball? So 20 to 40 minutes is about the point where flow state kind of peters out. Sometimes it can keep going on for a little bit longer, but for the most part, that's about average. And I'm about average, as if I've measured it and done scientific studies. I'm assuming this. Take this with a grain of salt when I'm talking about flow state like this. So once you're out of it, it's kind of difficult to get back into it. The problem also is that sometimes you're just not into drawing. And as a professional, I have to drive to work. I am tired. I am sleepy. And I've got to do work sometimes that I have zero inspiration, drive, desire to do. I just don't feel like doing it that day. It could just be that simple. Too bad, I've got to do it. So how do I sit my butt down and get the thing done when I don't want to do it at all? And the answer is quite a few things. I tend to set up everything that I do so that I could answer that question. So for the most part, the most difficult part of any drawing is the beginning. It's the composition, it's the idea, it's the working out of the shot, it's the storytelling, whatever is the driving force, the initial concept. That is hands down the hardest part of any drawing at all. And then once you've solved that stuff, that tends to be when flow state goes whoosh, and then it goes right out the window, and then now you're stuck. How do I finish it? Because all the fun stuff, the creative stuff, the stuff that you were really working on to get down and make it all work and come up with the idea is done. And now all you have to do is execute it, and the execution becomes mechanical. Because remember, like, I teach drawing, and all that I teach when it comes to drawing is mechanics. It's just perspective and construction and rhythm and anatomy and all these things that after a while, you're like, yep, got it, yep, got it, yep, got it. I do it all the time. I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that other thing. And yep, 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 yep. I've done it a million times. It's just becomes, it's mechanics. It's a craft. At that point, that's where the craft comes in. And then, and that's when it just kind of almost becomes, okay, now I got to finish. It's like the grammar part and the spelling part of writing something. It's suddenly, it's all about the mechanics. So what I tend to do, knowing that at that point I want to go do something else, because that's when it's kind of becomes a little dull to draw. You then put on, what I tend to do is a few things. I put something on that will keep me on the chair, because the brain power that I need in order to draw and finish a drawing is not as great. It's all about mechanics, and I could do that with a part of my brain that doesn't need. It's like, it's as if you were washing the dishes. If you're washing the dishes, you know what you're doing. You don't have to concentrate on washing the dishes. So ideally what you probably want to do is listen to the radio, put on a podcast, watch a video, put on a movie commentary, something. And that's exactly what I do. I put on an audiobook, I put on a movie commentary, I put on a movie that I haven't seen, or that I have seen, or I put on a TV show that's a bunch of talking heads that has very little visual stuff going on, just dramas, things like that, like Riverdale. I put on Riverdale, the whole, like the first 2 seasons of Riverdale, while I was working on the show on The Simpsons, doing board, tightening up my boards, because I don't put that on when I'm working out all the shots and all that other stuff. But once I'm finishing up the drawing part, the tightening up all the drawings, I put on Riverdale. I mean, there's nothing to see. It's just a bunch of people talking and a big mystery. And then so I'm like listening to the thing while I'm working. So shows like that are perfect because you don't have to watch it. You could just listen to it. I watched like all 5-6 seasons of Teen Wolf from the MTV Teen Wolf that way too. I mean, there was some fighting in it, but it happens really. It doesn't happen all the time, and it was basically a radio show for me. So I do that. I've listened to hundreds. I shouldn't say thousands. Well, I don't know. Hundreds and hundreds of books, audiobooks, novels, history books, philosophy books, theology books. I've gotten a college education in philosophy listening to an entire course on philosophy. I listened to the Republic. I listened to I mean, just so much listening to just books, tons of books, just hundreds and hundreds of books. So I listen to that. And that keeps me on the better the book, the more I get done, because I don't want to get up out of my seat if the book is great. I'm just like, oh my goodness, really? What's happening? Whoa! And then I'm like just drawing and I'm like, now when I run out of drawing, I come up with more things to draw because I just want to sit there and listen to the books. Same thing with a good TV series that's more of an audio radio show. Let's see, what else? Of course, like I said, DVD commentaries are very interesting. And let's see, there was one more thing that I listened to or do to keep my butt on the seat. Most of the time, whenever I have to do any of the actual thinking and creative stuff, I just listen to music because I have to concentrate. And the music doesn't. There's some artists that cannot listen to music while they're doing something creative because they're too busy listening to the music, paying attention to the way it's composed. So I'm not one of those people. I don't do that. Oh, podcasts, of course. Podcasts are another thing that I put on. I also put on sometimes a lot of YouTube videos. YouTube videos I put on depending on what mood I'm in. I put on a ton of YouTube videos, especially if the YouTube videos are mostly audio and conversational, kind of like this one, like this video that I'm even making now. Now it's becoming kind of meta, but if I was to want to listen to what another artist does to keep himself in their seat, and I was listening to this video, it would be this would be the type of video because there's nothing to see except me talking, right? So this is perfect. Like, to me, like this is the kind of video where I would get like an advice from somebody or something like that, whether it be business, marketing, it could be art related as well. So stuff like that. Sometimes it's video game videos. Like, I just listen to people play video games and talk about the video games or strategy for a video game or something like that. Depending on and the type of video games I tend to play are all on my phone. I hardly ever sit down on a console or on my computer and do any video gaming because it just feels like I'm wasting my time when I do that, which is very strange because then why I'm walking around with my phone and playing a video game and I'm not wasting my time. I don't know. It's weird, but so that's how I get my projects done. That's when I've done all the creative stuff and then I have to deal with something a little bit more mechanical. For example, when I'm doing in my comic and I'm doing all the flatting, boy, that can't be any more mechanical than that, right? I listen audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks. It depends on what the project is. If it's something that I absolutely 100% do not want to look up and stop for 15 or 10 to 15 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes to see what was happening on the screen, then only audiobooks. If whatever it is that I'm working on, I don't mind if I just look at a little bit and then I go back. That's fine. I'll put on a video or a show. So overall, that's my strategy. Always listen to something. A podcast as well, like I said. They're really very good. So those are my tips. That's how I get my work done. Find something inspiring that's going to want to make you sit down. That's another thing. It's difficult to put on a video of somebody painting or drawing or some kind of tutorial when you are drawing because you want to stop and watch, right? So that's a little trickier. I've done it, but that's a little harder to watch or put on while you're working. So those are my tips for powering through, staying focused. You don't need every fiber of your being focused on what you're doing. You could have half your focus somewhere else, imaginative. At first, I really recommend audiobooks, but don't put any videos, don't put any movies, none of that stuff. I really, from the very beginning, I highly recommend extremely good podcasts or audiobooks because they will keep you without having to look up. You will stay focused on what you're working on. That would be my recommendation if the audiobook isn't working, it's because it's not a good enough audiobook. The kind of audiobook I'm talking about is the kind that you do not want to get up and stop listening to. Because that means that you're going to want to stay where you're at, having your pencil move, because you got to be doing something. And that's the thing. Like, once you've kind of grokked a certain level of craft, you could pretty much go a little bit more on automatic. And that's how you would stay focused. Okay, so those are my tips, and I hope they are helpful, and I will talk to you next time. All right, bye.